world is currently witnessing a dramatic disruption of everyday life owing to the rapid progression of COVID-19. A global pandemic that started in a small city of Wuhan in December 2019 and has since then infected 29 million people and killed more than 9 lakh people in 173 countries all over the world as of 15 September 2020. But how did this disease spread from a small town in China to the entire world? COVID-19 is a highly infectious respiratory disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 and can be transmitted through respiratory droplets or aerosols and close contact with an infected person. These aerosols can penetrate the human body via inhalation through the nose or mouth. When an infected individual travels from one country to another, they carry the virus along with them and infect everyone they come in contact with. COVID-19 has rapidly spread around the world, posing enormous health, economic, environmental, and social challenges to the entire human population. Almost all the nations are struggling to slow down the transmission of the disease by testing and treating patients, quarantining suspected people through contact tracing, restricting large gatherings, maintaining complete or partial lockdowns. COVID-19 is the most crucial global health calamity of the century and the greatest challenge faced by humankind since World War II. The Indian government, taking a cue from other major economies around the world, decided to impose a nationwide lockdown to contain the highly contagious virus. Prime Minister Narendra Modi declared a complete nationwide lockdown for 21 days from 25th March to 14th April.
आज रात 12 बजे से संपूर्ण देश में संपूर्ण लॉकडाउन होने जा रहा है.
Everything remained shut except essential services like grocery stores, pharmacies, hospitals, ATMs and petrol pumps continued to function with necessary and mandatory precautions. All kinds of social, political, sports, entertainment, academic, cultural and religious congregations remained suspended. As 1.3 billion people stayed at home, the roads, streets, highways and cities across the country became deserted with animals strolling on the roads with minimum number of vehicles. There was silence and emptiness where there was usually hustle and bustle. It was time to get used to the new normal. We're all living in a new reality today and trying different ways to cope with it by getting accustomed to living in a physically distant existence. Even though it's called the new normal, there's nothing normal about it. Cities are not designed for social distancing and neither are most humans. COVID-19 has caused nations to shut down so as to stop it from spreading because it's a major physical health crisis. But is this really only about physical health? There's something a lot deeper going on inside each one of us. It's sowing seeds for a major mental health crisis.
The sudden declaration of a national lockdown brought all my sides to a grinding halt. A lot of my sites were at near completion, but we could not do the final touches, because of which my clients were unable to move into their new houses.
During the lockdown, my students could not attend their classes due to restriction in movement. Initially, I gave them a few home assignments as I thought it was temporary.
The lockdown not only caused our business to completely shut down, but also led to mass fear amongst the labourer community, which essentially come from all parts of the country. Even though I paid them full wages and provided rations during the lockdown, one fine day 8 of them just sat in a truck and fled to the villages, even without informing me.
I think the travel industry is one of the most affected industries because of this global pandemic. I think the month of March and April saw a lot of activity happening in terms of cancellations and explaining the customers as to how you can travel back again once the situation normalizes. We had a tough time dealing with flight cancellations, especially on travel portals. But most of the customers were pretty cooperative in that way. In fact, I would say the lockdown helped us in a certain way. We could do a lot of back-end activities in which we had to go search for a new office. Then we did some rebranding. We are working on our website creation, which of course will go live in a few days. We got time to engage with the audience through some informative posts, travel memories on social media. So that way it helped us a lot.
Being an HR, I'm responsible for the recruiting, training, hiring of employees. The lockdown led to a hiring freeze globally, and we could not fill up the positions. Hence, the managers were expected to work with the existing workforce. Initially, when the work was less, it was still manageable. But as the work flow increased, it gets stressful for the existing team members and also challenging for the hiring managers and HR. Hence, we are trying to prevent chaos amongst our employees because it will then impact their performance.
I had to close down my restaurant because of the national lockdown. My kitchen was stocked with a lot of vegetables and groceries, which would have got completely spoiled by the time lockdown was over. Despite the economic loss, I encouraged my chef to cook food so that we may distribute it among the poor and the needy in the neighborhood.
With no sign of COVID-19 abating, the nationwide lockdown was extended, but with provisions for another 2 weeks from 14th May till 31st May. This was the most difficult period of the lockdown, but it was an inevitable trade-off between lives and livelihoods. People faced challenges everywhere. There was very little clarity on which businesses were allowed and which were not. The lockdown extension led millions of people to be unemployed, migrants displacing, children adapting to a new way of learning, and adults to a new way of working. Every business had to come up with innovative ideas to keep themselves afloat as the economy hit rock bottom. With economies going through a major contraction, businesses declaring bankruptcy, unemployment at its peak with jobs disappearing, opportunities shrinking, and incomes being lost. Shutting down of educational sectors, migrant workers going through a major humanitarian tragedy, a global travel ban. Human welfare has been compromised in every way imaginable.
The fear caused by the pandemic led most of my construction workers, carpenters, painters to migrate back to their hometowns. This caused an extremely shortage of skilled and unskilled laborers. While I struggled to complete the ongoing site with whatever workers I have left, it was almost impossible to start work on my new projects.
With the extension of the lockdown, I had to figure out a way to continue teaching online as my students could not physically come and attend classes. While some people say online learning is a boon, I would say it's a curse basically. It's hard to actually have material prepared for your child every day since you can't physically see them. You can't simply have a discussion. I need to present something to actually teach them on the screen so that they have something to see and I have something to teach them with, rather than blindly just talking to them and not knowing if they are understanding the content or not.
With the lockdown being extended, most of my staff rushed back to their hometown out of fear, as Kota had also become one of the major hotspots in the country. Even though that was a financial relief for me as I don't have to pay to these people with zero business, but it also meant uncertainty of their return.
During the second phase of the lockdown, we had this huge order for raw materials required to make hospital beds and disinfectant tunnels for COVID centers. Even though we had the necessary permissions to run our business as it fell under the essential services, we had no laborers to load the material. I tried calling everyone I knew to replace my labor and complete my order. But the situation everywhere was exactly the same. The migrant workers had just left the city as Pune was turning into a COVID hotspot. It took me almost a week to arrange for local labor and complete my order.
Tourism industry in India at the moment is to try and promote localized tourism. Are trying to come to us and check where all they can go for maybe a weekend or something. What we are doing at the moment currently is that we are identifying some spots around Pune which are easily accessible from Pune and Mumbai, say maybe in a 100-kilometer radius, and trying to see whether they're safe for people to travel, because everyone is open now, everyone wants business, but then you need to take the safety angle as well.
The nation geared up to come out of the lockdown with Unlock 1.0 from 1st June. Restriction of movement was relaxed and businesses were allowed to reopen with strict regulations and precautionary measures. Although school, colleges and international travel continue to remain shut. The nation would continue to see an increase in COVID-19 cases and deaths, but the time had come to step out and go to work, and India has to finally learn to live with the virus.
With Unlock happening gradually, the sites are now resuming work with all safety precautions. We have limited numbers of workers at any given point at the sites. People work in shifts so as to avoid overcrowding. We are picking up the pace slowly. However, newer projects are not as easy to come by because of the economic slowdown.
One of the challenges of distance learning is that you and your students are no longer in the same room to collectively tackle their queries. The little interaction you have with your students before and after class or during breaks in lessons are irreplaceable. So now students can't catch me and ask certain things that they want me to clarify. The further away you are from your students, the more important it is to cultivate stability and practice norms. It is important to bear in mind that cultivating an engaging distance learning experience is very hard. It takes time and an incredible amount of patience.
Looking at the current situation with regards to the pandemic, I think international travel from India will be restricted for the next 6 months at least. At the moment, people want to step out of their houses. They are tired sitting 6 months at home and doing absolutely nothing. I would say not going out anywhere.
Psychological distress is widespread. Stresses have multiplied along with the fear of contracting COVID-19. Whether it's the fear of getting sick, grief over a loved one's death, anxiety over losing your job and not being able to pay the bills, life as we knew it is not going to be the same anytime soon.
During the unlock of certain sectors of the country, we could no longer were able to serve the dining customers. I quickly made some arrangements for pickup and delivery because I did not want the business to stop. We have a lot of regular customers and we really wanted them to provide comfort and normalcy to them. I've also created more space for food preparation since we don't have dine-in customers now. I thought of converting the dining room into a food prep area to give the employees more space to work and so that they can maintain the precautionary measures and 6 feet social distancing as mentioned by the government. It has been a transition for sure, but everyone has worked together and I'm trying to be as positive as possible. Most importantly, the silver lining of it all is the morale of the staff had been amazing so far and I am really grateful to it.
Since the unlock phase began, the suppliers refused to provide the material unless the previous payments were made. That was impossible since the inflow of funds had completely halted during the lockdown. The circulation of money in the business has been disrupted and we are facing difficulties in resuming the normal business. I guess it will take at least a year that we can reach a pre-COVID levels of our business.
Since the unlock, the hiring freeze has been lifted. However, all the interviews and hiring processes are only through the online mode. And once hired, the candidates are only onboarded after all the precautionary measures are taken. At an organization level, we had to make sure to set up the necessary infrastructure at each employee's home to ensure that their work from home runs smoothly without any productivity concerns.
Nobody seems to have it all figured out. COVID-19 has changed the way we live, eat, learn, work, travel, interact and do every single thing in our lives. Whether this tiny virus has changed our lives for the better or for the worse, only time will tell. Until then, we need to change our mindset from the what if to now what. Only then will there be the biggest collective awakening in the history of mankind that will truly lead us to the new normal.